This is really going to be a great challenge, speaking as the last speaker of the day during a graveyard hour too. I just hope that some of the stories I'm telling you will somehow perk all of us up, including myself. The topic that's been entrusted on me is the impact of religious conflicts on women and children, and naturally I will be dealing on the position in Malaysia. Now, religious conflicts, as we have heard just now, are common not just in situations where there is a plurality of beliefs existing within a particular society, but also inevitable within the same religion itself. And this is more apparently so in Malaysia, where there exist two systems existing on a parallel level, which is the civil system and the Sharia system. And this is entrenched in the federal constitution since we achieved our independence in 1957. However, it is to be noted that the Sharia jurisdiction is mostly in the realm of private personal law, meaning to say matters pertaining to divorce, custody, Baitul Mal, Zakat, and in the Sharia jurisdiction, the Sharia court only assume a limited jurisdiction over matters which we commonly know as the 356 formula. Offences which are punishable by maximum of 3 years imprisonment, 5 RM, 5,000 Malaysian ringgit, and 6 lashes of the strokes of rotan. So it's actually very limited to offences such as being in close proximity between men and women who's not married, eating during the fasting month of Ramadan, and various other offences which may overlap with offences which are deemed to be within the realm of the federal law. Now, who determines which goes to the Sharia court and which goes to the civil court? This will be dependent on the prosecutor. The federal court has decided that the public prosecutor has the ultimate power to decide in which court should a person be prosecuted. And in practice now, most of everyone, Muslims, are actually prosecuted in the civil courts. And more often than not, the usual casualties of this duality of system and conflicts are the more vulnerable groups of the society, who are the women and the children. Now, this paper addresses some of these conflicts resulting in the rights of either or sometimes both women and children being compromised. The way I'm dealing with my presentation would be to introduce issues, followed by the legal framework surrounding the issues, and where relevant, the judicial response to the issue, and in the final analysis, recommendations will be made in respect to both domestically and hopefully regionally as well. Now, religious conflicts can be both intra and inter. Now, it's interesting listening to my colleague from Indonesia just now that I noticed the conflicts, religious conflicts in Indonesia mostly stand between groups, sects as in S-E-C-T. Whereas in Malaysia it's more interpersonal. It's more between, within the private domain of the family life rather than within groups. I suspect this is because Malaysian government has got this strong hold over, politically, and also on how they regulate matters that come within the Sharia domain. For example, Sharia matters fall within the state constitution and not the federal constitution. Therefore, each sultan will be responsible, each king of the state will be responsible of his or his people. However, these different enactments, although exist in different states, I can tell you they're about 100% same. So there's a lot of control in that sense. So when there is that much control, differences will only occur in form rather than substance. So I'll talk about intrapersonal religious conflicts first. I'm giving you some scenarios. The issues will be in terms of prosecution of Sharia offences, incidents of child abuse, which I'm sure is common in every other ASEAN country, and I shall not delve into this, it's very common. Incidents of child marriage, and also emerging, but not as rampantly as in Indonesia, with the existence of perhaps different sex, as in, but then it's not so apparent, as I say, because the difference is only more on form rather than substance. For example, disputing whether the Prophet actually practices certain actions during prayers, for instance, and so it's been debated. It's more within the family there is some discontentment, but then it is not big enough to be brought to outside. Now, child marriage. Incidents of child marriage take place not only among Malaysians, but also between non-Malaysians living in Malaysia. From my own study, ongoing study with child marriage, minor child marriages in Sarawak, I find that it occurs mostly between the ages of 15 to 18 years of age. So the incidence of child marriage is not similar to that taking place in India, for example, where they are mostly forced child marriages. This is mostly teenagers, love affair, and because Islam prohibits sex outside marriage, and therefore once they find out they're pregnant, naturally the next thing to do is to go to the Sharia court and apply to get married, because under the age of 16 for girls and under the age of 18 they must get the permission from the Sharia judge before they can actually be married. Now, the problem that we face is that it has become some sort like more of an endorsement, you apply for application. If you're supported by parents, then you'll be married off. The bigger issues such as, are we perpetuating, the many societal problems that arise from incidents of child marriage. For example, 95% of the cases that I've seen over the 10 years in Sarawak, they take place within the more impoverished family members. And they're mostly school dropouts. They've been dropouts from school since the age of 13, as young as 13, and therefore they socialize and they get pregnant and get married, and then they become young parents, and the cycle just continues. So the more important issue would be to see how do we actually impress on the judges that they should not allow this as a matter of practice, but really to inquire further. Are there, the economic position, are their biological situation, allows them to actually be married early and therefore start a family, because we all know all the many problems related to child marriages. And lately, we also have the problem in relation to child marriage taking place within non-Malaysians living in Malaysia, and this occurs mostly among the Rohingya community, where the total population living in Malaysia now is about 39,000 of them, and children accounting for 26% of this total population. And this is even more worrying because, as we all know, if among Malaysians it's difficult, what more with this segment of society which is really pretty much unregulated. Prevention and response remain a challenge due to customary and religious practices. Married children are exposed to violence and exploitation, social isolation, premature pregnancy, and health problems. Sometimes they're just married off within the community without going to the Sharia courts, and no actions are taken against them. Without adequate awareness on sexual and reproductive health matters, child spouses and parents endure repeated pregnancies and lack parenting skills to care for their own children. And more alarmingly, in the last 2 years, there has been a rise of mail order brides, marriages arranged by their parents in the country of origin as means to escape conflict and poverty. The next incidents would be on the example of arbitrary prosecution of Sharia offences. Let me just cite you an example which took place several years ago. Kartika Sukarno, a 32-year-old model, pleaded guilty in the Sharia court in Eastern Pahang State to a charge of drinking beer, that is consuming liquor, which is an offence under the Sharia enactment, in a hotel at Cherating on July 11, 2008. Because she pleaded guilty, she was subsequently sentenced to 6 lashes and a fine of 5,000 ringgit for consuming alcohol. Now, fortunately for Kartika, the punishment of whipping was never inflicted on her. How is this? This was due to gaps in the enforcement mechanisms. Now, we must understand, while the law comes under the state constitution, the enforcement agencies are under the federal government. So there is a conflict there. According to the civil law, whipping is always an additional order to that of imprisonment, and Kartika was never sentenced to imprisonment. So when she was brought to the prison authorities say there is no sanction for her to be imprisoned. And whipping is actually done within the prison compound. The prison is under the federal administration, as I say, and finally for her case was pardoned by the king. So she was one lucky person. Now, our concern is discrimination. If you go to Bukit Bintang area in Kuala Lumpur, you can easily see many men consuming alcohol. But why is it that no actions have been taken against them? But this lady, all the way in Kuantan, another state in eastern Malaysia, she was actually arrested and prosecuted. And she actually submitted to the law very calmly and said she wants to accept what she knows what she did was wrong. But you see, one case against so many other cases unprosecuted. Now, while we rejoice that Kartika was spared the rod, 3 women offenders, together with 4 men, had been sentenced to whipping under Section 23 of the Kuala Lumpur Federal Territory Sharia Criminal Offences Act for the offence of adultery by the Kuala Lumpur Sharia High Court between December 2009 and January 2010 for committing illicit sexual intercourse. And all the women actually gave birth subsequently. Now, we all know that many Muslim scholars have propounded to the fact that the Quranic teachings, which emphasize on repentance, forgiveness, and personal transformation, and all the verses in punishment for adultery are followed by verses of repentance and forgiveness. But this, even the verses in the Quran emphasize that an offender who repents after his crime and amends his conduct is redeemed as God is forgiving and merciful, and principles that are echoed in all our religions in Malaysia. And these are the legal issues. Number 1, can the Kajang prison, which is established under federal law, execute an order issued by the Sharia court, which is actually under the state constitution? Can a federal authority execute a sentence of whipping against a Muslim woman when the prison regulation 2000 forbids corporal punishment to be applied to a female prisoner and explicitly provided in section 289 of the Criminal Procedure Code that no woman shall ever be whipped, and also a male prisoner who is more than 50 years old? But in these cases involving these 3 women, they were all already whipped. Albeit the minister claimed that it did not cause any injury on them, it was done in the presence. But then it is strictly against human rights, and we should say it goes against the statutory provision. And why was it done in the first place? Now, for intra-religion religious conflicts that we have seen, they are, in conclusion, they occur due to, firstly, inadequate statutory provisions, secondly, gaps in statutory provisions. Not only they're inadequate, where they exist, there are gaps. Thirdly, lack of infrastructure in implementation, and finally, arbitrary enforcement. So recommendations would be, law reform is of course urgently needed in both civil and Sharia law in Malaysia, and not only statutory reform, administrative guidelines must be lined up so that the stakeholders will actually know on how to implement the law effectively. Otherwise, it shall be arbitrarily enforced. And implementation of the law must be firm and consistent, equally applicable to men and women alike. Now, moving on to a more complex issue, which would be the inter-religious conflicts. And there are many examples of this. For example, the impact of conversion out of Islam is a problem which has not reached any agreement in the Malaysian courts. I shall not delve into it because due to problem of time, but we know there are many cases whereby women are being persecuted because even applying to remove the religion of Islam from the birth certificate cannot be done by the Malaysian courts. But the issue is now, if it cannot be done by the civil courts, what are the Sharia courts doing? Because obviously it is an offence, so it must be dealt with by either one of the courts. Now, the issue which I want to emphasize would be, as Michelle has stated just now, would be on custody disputes and the unilateral religious conversion of children. Now, more evident than in any other matters, it is the marriages for Malaysians that are subject to this dual legal system. Muslims are governed by the respective state Sharia enactments, whereas the non-Muslims by the Universal Law Reform Marriage and Divorce Act 1976. Now, due to the parallel systems, a spouse who had contracted a civil marriage may later decide to convert to Islam. And I put there, for whatever reason. If he does that genuinely, at least one hurdle is already passed. But what if he does it out of spite? So we have been trying to impress on the religious authorities to have a checklist. At least, we have to check on the genuinity of the intention of conversion. But so far it has been refused because they say we are not encouraging people to embrace Islam. But that's not the point. Because people can just use this as a means of getting out of marriages. Because you know why? There is a lacuna in the law. Because under the Law Reform Marriage and Divorce Act, it is only the non-converting party who can seek for annulment. It does not provide for the converted party. So what would the converted party do? He or she will therefore go to Sharia courts. But Sharia courts do not have jurisdiction to handle non-Muslim parties. So you see, the non-Muslim party will go to the civil court for redress, obtain whatever custody orders, and the converted party will go to the Sharia court and will obtain a parallel custody order. And then which one will reign over the other, because it's parallel. Under the Federal Constitution, Article 1211A provides that they are of parallel jurisdiction, and in matters that fall within the Sharia court's jurisdiction, civil courts loses all jurisdiction. So it's actually, on paper at least, it's very straightforward. So the law as it currently stands, as I said, only allows the non-committing party to seek for divorce if he or she decides to do so. Now, if this is not problematic enough, he or she may decide to unilaterally convert the children of the marriage, usually those children under the age of majority, without the knowledge of the non-committing party. Now, this is where I get really, really loud. The Muslim party then refers custody issues to the Sharia court as a way of obtaining custody of the children, and possibly too to evade financial responsibilities imposed upon him by the civil court. Remember? The civil court can impose whatever, can make whatever order, but somehow it cannot be enforced because he is now not a subject of the civil court where private custody matters are concerned. Now, such an act clearly violates the rights of the non-converting party and the children and is clearly unconstitutional. Now, what's the statutory framework for this? There's an array of statutory provisions existing in different statutes which compound rather than facilitate the complexity of this problem further. Why is that? I've mentioned Article 1211A, which gives exclusive jurisdiction to the Sharia courts over matters involving those professing the Muslim religion only. Whereas Section 46(2) of the Administration of Islamic Law provides that the civil jurisdiction of the Sharia High Court relates to actions and proceedings in which all the parties are Muslims. So the non-converting party cannot seek redress at the Sharia court. Accordingly, the Sharia court has no jurisdiction to determine issues relating to non-Muslims, who similarly cannot be compelled to submit to such jurisdiction. If this is not bad enough, Article 12(3) of the Federal Constitution stipulates that no person shall be required to receive instruction or take part in any ceremony or act of worship of religion other than his own. And Article 12(4) of the Federal Constitution further provides that for the purposes of Clause 3, the religion of a person under the age of 18 years shall be decided by his parent or guardian. Now, because of this constitutional provision, Malaysian government has abstained or reserved Article 14 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which provides for freedom of thought, conscience and religion. Now, these two articles are to be read with Article 160 and 11 schedule, which inter alia states that words importing the masculine gender include females, and words in the singular include the plural, and vice versa. Now, Section 5 of the Guardianship of the Infants Act actually gives both parents equal parental rights and authority in relation to the custody or upbringing of the infant children. Now, Section 88 of the Law Reform Marriage and Divorce Act provides that in determining the custody of children, the best interest of the child shall be made paramount consideration. All these are all familiar to us. I'm sure it's nothing new. Now, when you have ambiguities in the statutory provisions, to where do you seek redress? To the courts, isn't it? Unfortunately, series of cases had demonstrated that the courts had failed to decide in the best interest of parties, particularly the children. Why is that? Let me just tell you the story of one case, which was finally decided by the Federal Court. The case of Shamala Satyasilan and Dr. Jayaganesh C. Mugaraja. Now, Shamala is a Hindu mother whose husband converted to Islam in 2002. They were married for 4 years, And unknown to her, he had, and they had 2 infant children, and unknown to her, he had converted their children to Islam. Now, Shamala filed for a custody order from the Civil High Court, naturally. The husband instead, during a German period, applied to the Sharia court for a custody order and obtained an ex parte Hadana order from the Sharia court while proceedings were still underway at the civil court. The Civil High Court in July 2004 granted day-to-day custody of the children to their mother with this peculiar condition, that she raises her children as Muslims and not expose them to her own Hindu faith. Now, how practical do you think this order is? Shamala's application for a declaration that the conversion of her 2 children to Islam had violated her equal right as their parent to determine their religious upbringing was actually dismissed. The High Court decided that since the children were then Muslims, the Sharia court was the only forum to determine the validity of their conversion. However, the Sharia court has no jurisdiction to hear Shamala as she is a non-Muslim, leaving her with no redress. She had since absconded to Australia with her children. So you will see, ladies and gentlemen, that there is no win-win situation here. The children have since lost the existence of the father figure from their lives. I have no doubt that both parents are good and loving parents, but because of this custody tussle, which somehow can seek no redress in our judicial system, one party has got to take the drastic action, because obviously she cannot be ordered to raise her children other than in her own faith. Sadly, Shamala's case is not one isolated case. There has been a string of decisions which has since followed the decision of Shamala in the issue of unilateral conversion to Islam. However, the latest case on unilateral conversion of children fortunately took a different turn. The case of Indira Gandhi and Muhammad Rizwan Abdullah. Now, Indira's estranged husband had converted to Islam and had unilaterally, same story, converted their 3 children, 12 years old, 13 years old and 18 months, to Islam, and application was made in their absence. Now, there's a difference here. The High Court granted custody to Indira in 2010, and she applied to the, and somehow she also applied for an order to strike that, to say that the conversions were null and void. And the High Court agreed that the conversions were held to be unlawful and unconstitutional due to it being done in the absence of the mother, to be in direct transgression of the Federal Constitution, and to be in direct transgression of Section 5 of the Guardianship of Infants Act. Before I end, I'd just like to note that, in conclusion, it is very much a sad situation whereby when courts have been entrusted the responsibility to resolve matters, it does not always deliver what it is supposed to do. So for that, I'm making a recommendation that at ASEAN level at least, I made the same recommendation in Bangkok last month during the ASEAN review of terms of reference meeting, that there ought to be at least, if not an ASEAN Court of Human Rights in a like manner like the European Court of Human Rights, but at least an advisory tribunal, so that parties such as Shamala would have a final recourse, which would at least give them an appropriate voice. Now, in conclusion, I just would like to quote this, to me, a profound quote by Judicial Commissioner Lee Sway Seng in the case of Indira. He said this, and I quote, "This decision is not a victory for anyone, but a page in the continuing struggle of all citizens to find that dynamic equilibrium in a country of such diverse ethnicities, pursuing peace in less than a homogeneous society, giving space to one another where religious sensitivities are concerned, tolerance and respect to our neighbours in pursuit of the truth and reality. Let God be God, and let Him work sovereignly in the lives of our children. Let our children be our children, and the adults they will soon become in the fullness of time. Let them take responsibility for their actions in seeking and finding Him, though as the poets say, He is not far from each one of us. Whilst we may be confident of the journey we have taken, for faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen, yet we must appreciate that others may take a different path. That aside, love, peace, and harmony should reign supreme in our hearts and to our homes, knowing that our differences need not divide us, and that in seeking the divine, we must also seek to understand our neighbours better, confident of the fact that there is no compulsion in religion, and that whatever faith we belong to, we shall always have the highest regard for one another and desire their greatest good. Indra Gandhi against Muhammad Rizal Abdullah, for Judicial Commission, Lee Swee Sing. Thank you very much.
Well.